All right. So for this off the record, we were just talking about how we both have experienced resisting the feminine. So tell me more about what you were saying about how your wardrobe has changed recently as you start to embrace more of the feminine.
Well, I never wore dresses even as a little girl. And this is actually can't tell, but this is a dress. I love wearing dresses. In fact, I was just at a an event and one of the comments one of my team members said one day when I wear pants, they're like, "Oh, you have feet. I can see them now." And I'm like, "I've always had feet, Rob. I've always had feet." And it's just a stark contrast to how I was growing up. I have an older brother and a younger brother, and I live in I'm Latina. My family's from Mexico, and I grew up hearing things like, well, your brother can do that because he's a boy, and you can't do that because you're a girl. So I developed unknowingly
Mhm.
until now in my youth this complex around, well, I'm not going to be good enough if I'm not more masculine. And so also I would get a bunch of his hand-me-downs, my older brother's hand-me-downs, so that also probably didn't help things. But it was just this rejection of the female and just always embracing more of like the masculine qualities.
Michelle, how did we not talk about this before? I also have an older and a younger brother. I also have had the hand-me-downs. Is this something we've discussed? Because I
I've
am
heard you
totally.
talking about this, and I'm pretty sure I've conversed with you in my head. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is why we get along so well. We literally are middle children in families where I mean, and I'm not sure, I don't know what your experience was. And in mine, it was very much about the patriarchal thing is even huger in the Mexican culture. But there's also like this matriarchal thing. You know, anyone
Mhm.
who's seen Encanto, so it's a little confusing sometimes to be in the middle of that because there's a huge juxtaposition between the two growing up.
Yeah. I know that I didn't wear dresses just because I was always active and out running,
Hmm.
and it's like
Hmm.
I didn't want to. It reminds me of a funny video of a young girl who was getting into her car after a soccer game or a baseball game, something like that, and she was crying. And the mom's like, "Why? Why are you crying? Why are you upset?" And she was like, "They said the next game is a makeup game. I don't want to put on makeup." And it was like that was me as a kid. It was like I was so hardcore tomboy, and then it wasn't until like college where I started to make that shift because of dance. And I was like, ooh, rhinestones, sparkly things. But I only in the dance room. Outside the dance room, all black, always pants,
Hmm.
all black all the time. And it wasn't until recently I started to explore color and like lighter colors and whiters and pinks and purples and all of these things. And but for a long time it was always black or blue or red, but just dark, bold colors. And it was like, oh,
Wow. I
why
can't
is
even imagine you wearing those because I think you've already had adopted the more feminine colors by the time that we met. So I can't even picture that right now.
Isn't it crazy? I heard someone say once that subconsciously people who wear black a lot are trying to blend in and hide and they don't want to be seen as much. And then those who are wearing brighter and whiter colors, they tend to be wanting to be up front, be seen, get the spotlight. And I don't know if heard that and was like, well, I want to be seen more. I want more of the spotlight. And then I was
Mm.
like, maybe I'll switch into that. But I also have been working and diligently at tapping more into my feminine energy and bringing that into the day to day. So I think it's a combination. It's so interesting to have two completely different people from totally different backgrounds, but have very similar life experiences when it just comes to one factor of like growing up with an older and younger brother did push us both into being more of like, oh, well, it's just easier to take on the masculine role. I
Mhm.
know for me, my mother didn't embody a lot of the feminine. She wasn't
Mhm.
very like get dressed up, do the cutesy stuff. She didn't teach
Same.
me how to do my makeup. She didn't teach me like
Mhm.
thank goodness for YouTube. YouTube University growing up as a kid and dance class where we just did dance like makeup so many times that I got practice. But I don't know if it wasn't for having dance in my life, which forced me to try on different outfits, to try on different things, to wear things that I otherwise would not have put on. Um, it allowed me to be a different version of myself. And it was like, cool, today I'm going to try this. And it's like
Mm,
almost getting to try on a different version of myself I otherwise wouldn't be in this wardrobe change. And now I'm experiencing that through other ways because every single time we see ourselves in a mirror, we are impacted by what we wear.
mhm,
I know my
mhm,
neurology is impacted by
mhm,
it.
mhm.
I like all of this conversation started because I complimented your beautiful necklace. And it was like wearing things like that matter. Like you
It
probably
does.
can feel the weight of that on your neck. And and as you move and all of that
Mhm.
anchors you into this feeling that you wouldn't get if you were just in a t-shirt and some black pants.
It's so true, and I love you sharing about dance. I didn't have dance, although I feel like it would have been something so lovely for me. For me, it was actually makeup. It was makeup that was my gateway, and I had my mom's best friend sold Mary Kay.
Yeah.
And so she's the one who first taught me about makeup and how to put it on. And then from there, it became this obsession because when I was younger, I was always drawing, painting, doing crafts, just locked in my room for hours. And for people who know me, I'm an extrovert. So I'm sure that can be really challenging to picture me like just by myself, quiet, not talking to anyone and creating. And that was just a beautiful just outlet that I had. And then I got into junior high and high school, band, marching band, academics, and it just wasn't anything that I focused on anymore. So when I got introduced to makeup and I was like, oh, this is like art. These are different types of
Mhm.
paints and brushes and different mediums. And this became my palette. That's how I began to express myself and have that creative expression for years and years and years. And it's true that it does anchor you in into
Yeah.
being a certain way. And sometimes maybe not for the positive, because there were times in my life that I found that I was trying to hide and change who I was
Mhm.
with the makeup, because that's something you can do with the way you dress
Yep.
or with what you put on your face, how you style yourself, just like you mentioned with I hadn't ever heard that about when you're wearing black, you're really just trying to blend in. And it
Mhm.
reminds me of an actual experience I had with, he was my first hiring manager in when I went, got my big girl job. And he told me in a very unconstructive way. I know this now. At the time, I was in my 20s and I didn't. And he's just like, you need to stop wearing what you're wearing. And you need to basically, he told me to blend in more, like, stop wearing those bright colors, stop doing this, stop doing that. And it crushed so much out of me for years and years, to the point that we were just talking about this. I've only recently began rediscovering
Yeah.
color and, different flattering cuts. And what do I feel better wearing? And how do I feel when I wear this? Because for the longest time, this is going to sound silly, but I remember going to the optometrist to get glasses. And there's this guy there that his job is to help you pick the best ones for your
The
face.
frames.
And yeah, the frames. Yes, the best frames for your face. And I was having a discussion with him about like, well, my boss says that I can't wear anything too crazy. And so he was guiding me towards something that was going to be more flattering, better for my face shape. And just, he could tell I had a bubbly personality and I was rejecting it because I
Yeah.
was like, he told me I couldn't do this. And it just like crazy to me that I would have accepted that. But at the time, he was the person who was guiding me, mentoring me. He was my
Right.
boss. I felt like I needed to listen to that advice. He knew things I didn't know, obviously. And I remember the looks that they were giving me, the guy who was helping me and another associate. And they were just like, surely they're not talking. I mean, they were trying to help me understand that he probably wasn't, like, I was taking it too literally.
Right. Okay.
And I am a literal listener. So I
We
likely
have learned.
was taking it so literally, which I didn't know at the time either. I'm like, no, he told me this. I can't wear red frames. That would be crazy. I could get fired. Or, like these associations that you make
Mhm.
that you don't understand. there are other people's beliefs that are being pushed on you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I wore a lot of blending in colors for a very, very, very long time because of that.
Is there anything else in life? I'm just sitting here thinking, what other things have we experienced shifts in as we've stepped into embracing more of our feminine and stepping into more of that? Like, I know recently I've had certain experiences that if I had had these 6 months or a year ago, I would have had a lot more tension in my body and a lot more what people would label as anxiety or just my
Mm,
head ruminating and spinning and unable to sleep, and I typically would have that in the past, but because I've stepped into this embracing the feminine, embracing more of, like, just trust and surrender, I find that those same situations don't create tension anymore because I step into
mhm.
relaxation, and so it's more just ease and effortlessness, and it just all works out. Timing
Yeah.
works out, the right person, the right thing, all
Mhm.
just falls into place right at the last second, exactly when it should. I know I didn't notice
Mm.
that in
Mhm.
different places and things. How about yourself?
I would agree. I would also say that there's been this presence in my life, be that a connection or actual guides, that I have always felt that I've had a certain amount of flow.
Mm.
And the story that I like to tell is about when I started in my corporate job as a temp, answering the phones, like a temp worker, not even an actual employee. And within 5 years, I was traveling all over the world. I was talking to the CEO. I was getting to do my dream job, basically. And when I sit there and I recount the steps it took for me to get there, there's no way I could have masterminded that on my own.
Right,
Like, it's not like Game of Thrones where I sat there and I'm like, if I do this, and then, at one point I quit the job, and then they came crawling back. Like, how could I have predicted any of
right.
this or try to do it? And it was very much that non-attachment to an outcome, and then it showed up. So I feel very fortunate that I have always had that presence in my life. And I've also noticed when I've sold out on that presence because of the advice that we get, especially as entrepreneurs, which I know that you know of this experience, where you're told to hustle and hustle and hustle and grind, and you need to basically, if you're not blood, sweat, tears to make your business work, then you're not working hard enough and you don't deserve to be successful. And that's not the narrative that I
Mm.
accept anymore. I know it's not the narrative you accept anymore. And it's something that really opened my eyes to that is human design, because
Mhm.
I know you and I both share the projector profile in human design, which is absolutely the opposite of that.
Yeah.
And when I found out that most of the human design types are, I think it's about 70% of the population is this type in human design called generator, manifesting generator, which they can hustle and grind and hustle and grind. And that is how they're
Mhm.
designed to operate. So the majority of the population is that way, which makes sense why we receive so much of that advice. And then the rest of us who are not designed to operate that way are like, why can't we keep up? Why isn't this working for us? Why
Why am I
can't,
getting disease? Why am I
exactly. Why
having
do I keep
migraines?
burning out? Yes, and just knowing that and having the permission and the understanding of like, oh, I get it. I'm not designed the same way. It's like putting diesel fuel into a regular fuel car or vice versa. Like, it's not going to work. It's not the right way for you to operate.
Yeah.
And finding that out gave me a lot of relief, and like, I'm not broken. I need to fix my strategy for how I'm approaching life. And I think you and I have both really felt that in the past few months in different ways.
Oh, yeah, especially in business because it's like
Mhm.
it's decades of work to get to where we are, and
Mhm.
along the decades are all the little lessons that we have to have to be able to get to where we are, right? There's they people tried to tell us along the way. I know for me, full well, people told me things and I blatantly looked at them and said, "You are wrong." And now I hear 10 years later would sit here and go, "They were right." Because I
Ah.
did not, I needed to learn the experience. They tried to say, "Hey, look, let me warn you, there's a pothole around the corner." And I said, "Pah, my car can get over a pothole. It's not that bad." And then I hit the pothole and I cried about it and I learned the lesson. Then I know that I am now the person who's telling other people, "Hey, there's a pothole around the corner. Here's how to avoid it." And then when they don't listen, you get upset. You're like, I told you, I told you
Mhm.
the potholes are." This is the cycle of life, right? This is the
Yeah.
projection and the mirroring cycles.
Mhm.
I also really loved learning about my human design and getting to understand that, like, oh, that's why, like, here's what my timing is. Here's how
Mhm.
I work. Here's
Mhm.
what I need, because the hundreds of different ways I attempted to build my business were all built for other
Mm.
people's energetic systems. They were all
Mm.
built for their learnings, their
Mm.
purpose. And that's why, even if it did work, even if it brought in money, even if it got attention, even if it like had all of the metrics of success that other people tell you to look for, right? You can have the I've had the following, I've had the money coming in, I've had the accolades, I've had all of those things, and it still didn't sit right. It wasn't like,
Yeah.
I didn't feel like, okay, I can just maintain this, or this is something I want to
Mhm.
grow. It was always like, this isn't, it just doesn't feel right. And for whatever reason, I've always been super intuitive. And it's like, if it doesn't feel right in my gut, I know I won't stick to it. I will fall off. It will be a struggle. And life is allowed to be easy. That's something that I
Mhm.
shifted a couple years back, was really giving myself permission to be like, you know what? It can be easy and effortless. And
Mhm.
because I now believe it can be easy and effortless, I'm just going to keep trying different ways until I find what ease and effortless is.
Mhm.
And that's what I feel like I, like, in the last few weeks, shifted into, is like,
Mhm.
whoa, it's like, wow, yes, that's the person I want to talk to. Yes, that's the room I want to be in. Yes, that's the opportunity that I've been building for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. And it's
Mm.
like, I've
Mhm.
always known that's what was intended for me, but I didn't know, how do I get there? It's like
Mhm.
knowing the finish line, but not knowing the path to get to the finish line. And you have no map. And so you're like trying to figure it out along the way. I just found that when I stopped trying to find the path, and then I allowed myself to like just be present, I almost, the path found me. And it was like,
Mm.
it's so much easier that way.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
let the
Yeah.
birds guide you. Let the monkeys
Yeah.
come swing through the trees and guide you. Follow the
Yeah.
little plants as they grow. Like, follow the trail. I don't know how to
Mhm.
tell you that. I described it this way in a brief podcast yesterday I recorded, and it was very interesting because I was thinking about, what did I really change? And the change that
Mm.
I made was, for many years I've been active. I've been moving,
Mhm.
going, creating, doing, do the thing. I'm just active, very masculine energy, constantly like, let me chase the client, let me do the thing, let me go to the next event. And I finally said, you know what? Let me try the opposite of that for once. So I
Mm.
sat in stillness and I detached and I canceled all the things that were reoccurring on the calendar, and I just sat there. And there were many days, about 4 or 5 different days, where for chunks of hours, old me would have been like, you need to be creating this. There's this
Mhm.
slide deck to do. You've got that thing coming up. Book this ticket, book that room. And I just allowed myself to sit there and be, quote, lazy. I
Mm.
didn't actively meditate. I didn't actively do anything. I was just sat there. I didn't scroll. I didn't like read a book. I just sat there. I allowed myself to just sit, enjoy the rain one day, just sit,
Mm.
enjoy the sun a different day, just sit. And what that allowed me to do was be in stillness. And that
Mhm.
stillness stopped creating these ripples in the water. The ripples were scaring the fish away. The
Mm. I
moment
love
I
that.
was still, all the fish got curious and they all started to come swimming up to me and they go, "Hey, what are you doing? Hey, what's going on over here? Hey, oh, that looks yummy." And they bite the hook. And then now I'm like, oh, all the people that I was searching for are now searching for me. So it was
Mhm.
like such a shift. And it's like, I don't know how else to visualize it other than I felt like I stopped moving and it allowed the fish the
Mm.
opportunity to get curious. And it was like, oh, I've just been scaring the fish away this whole time.
So that's such a good analogy. It's I've been dealing with a similar aspect where what you're talking about with stillness, I noticed how much I move all the time, even just when I'm being still. And it finally clicked. Oh, the more we move, the more we're giving away our energy, we're giving away our
Mhm.
power, versus when we're still, we are containing that power, we're allowing ourselves to build it within us. And the more we build that power, the more magnetic we'll be, the more
Yes.
powerful we'll be, the more our intentions will have what they need in order to actually permeate and create what we want. And the visual that I got for you just now when you were explaining that, that I can relate to, is this idea of before you had a lot of that fire and air energy, the fire energy being, go, do, drive hard, and the air moving that and just fueling the fire and intellectualizing everything.
Mhm.
And it is a great way to get things done. Also, really good way to burn out if that's all you're doing,
Yep.
versus being more in that feminine water energy where you can still flow. You can be still like a pond, or you can still flow, or you can evaporate, you can move, and that stillness of the earth as well. And then also this visual of, when you put together earth and water, you get mudslides, and those are really friggin' powerful too.
Mm.
They're still very powerful forces in nature.
I love that.
So I wouldn't say that one is better or the other. I think it's all just about understanding the potency and the right time and the right place and the right phase of life. And even for women, the right time in your cycle,
Mhm.
because we have rhythms and cycles that men don't have through our hormones, specifically for women,
Yep.
whether or not you have a menstrual cycle anymore. And just understanding that, that's been a really big theme in my life, my coaching, how I look at the rhythms and cycles a person's going through, how they are designed, in addition to all of the other things that we do, so that you have a better idea and understanding of how do I navigate life for me, because it's not going to be the way Michelle does it. It's not going to be the way that Jayna does it, or how the guru on YouTube does it. It's going to be very individual and unique for the person, for the individual, because everyone has just got their own beautiful personality and energetic blueprint,
Absolutely.
and where their energy is right now. Because everyone's energy, as much as you and I have in common, we probably have different energetic stuff going on all the time.
And all the seasons are needed too, right?
Mm,
I couldn't be as present as I am now and as calm and as peaceful as I am now without having had the 3, 4, 5 years where I've created all of the gathered the knowledge, gotten
mm,
the experience and the skill set, have the firm belief in what I do because I've helped so many people now be able to achieve what they wanted. So I know it's possible. So my belief is bought in. It took
mm,
all of that time to create all of the resources that I utilize with my clients, whether it be the slide decks or whether it be the PDFs or the audios or the app or all of the different things that support what I do.
mm,
So to be able to be in a season of passivity or being able to just receive, it came from a season of being highly active behind the scenes and
mhm,
quietly just putting in the work to build step by step, stone by stone, brick by brick, build the foundation, knowing that one day I'd get into what I refer to as my promotional season, where right now I get to be really present and promotional. All I do is I'm just being present in my life, living my dharma, just being myself, right? Just living in this world, and I just get to talk about what I do. And
mhm,
so I'm doing a lot more presence and promotion right now, while last season it was a lot of reconstructing and recovering, because the season before
mhm,
that was another season where I had a different output. It was very much something completely different. And the seasons come and go, and they're not
Mhm.
predictable when they come and go either. Like sometimes they'll last a year, sometimes they'll last a month, sometimes it's 6 months. I feel like that's where human design comes into play because
Mhm.
it gives you a little bit of a predictability.
Mhm.
I know that we recently were looking up our human designs using some ChatGPT prompts to be able to help us kind of just get a better understanding, because you can like get your human design and then look at it and go, but what does it mean? And so sometimes it's nice to
No,
have something and go, tell me more about myself based on this. And then like
yeah.
giving it great questions. And so tell me more about what you've learned about yourself with the human design. How's that helped you?
It's given me the permission slip to be myself and to articulate what my strengths are, and also honor where I need to honor myself more and give myself a little bit more slack. And slack not as an excuse to not produce, but as a reframing for why I would benefit from working in a different way than other people, and why doing a full 8-hour workday is actually counterproductive for the way that I meant to operate in the world. Like what you're saying, the more that I hustle, the less opportunities show up, versus the more that I honor the cycle, the easier it gets, and things just plop into place. I used it. I've had many conversations with the chat about this, and I found one that I thought was really, really interesting because I put in my human design report, and it started to give me even information about how to do my business, even though I didn't
Ooh.
ask it. I didn't prompt it to. I'm like, how did it know that I wanted this information? I think I put it in a project, so it probably knew what I was up to. And I'll read just a little bit about it just to give some insight. So for a project, I'm a projector that's self-projected, which means that I externally process when I hear myself. When I'm trying to make a decision, I hear myself saying something, and that's how I get my answers. It doesn't mean that I need advice, but I work well with soundboarding with people, which makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
And the strategy for the projectors is waiting for the invitation. So waiting for recognition and an invitation. Because some people talk about this, some people don't. If you're getting an invitation but you don't feel recognized, then it's not a truly aligned invitation. Because if somebody is like, you would be great for this, and it has nothing to do with your expertise or who you are, what you're about, gosh, I've fallen into that trap a lot.
All the
Haven't
time.
you? Yeah. And I'm just like, "Oh, look, somebody wants me to do this. It's an invitation. Let me do it." And then I show up and I'm like, this is not me. This is not the right place. So waiting to be recognized for being who you are, and then
Mhm.
invited, much more aligned. And another layer of this that I've recently discovered is, to be recognized, you do need to let people know what you do. And
Ooh.
I absolutely want to make sure that I mention this for you, and also for any other
That was
person who
spicy.
might
Call
find
me
out
out
they're a
there,
projector.
girl.
Yes, yes, because that was another critical piece of the puzzle I was missing. I'm like sitting here like twiddling my thumbs, like, okay, well, I'm not going to give people anything they aren't asking for, because, then they're just going to reject it. And nothing happens when you do that either. So there's an element of like, you need to tell people what you are an expert in and how you can help them, or they can't recognize you. And if they can't recognize you, how are they going to invite you? How are you going to get those aligned invitations? So showing up, which I know is a huge theme that you and I have been talking about. How do we be more visible and authentic when we show up, and in a safe way?
It's like you're saying, "Build it and they will come," actually has a second part. Build it and they will come, but you gotta tell people it's here. Tell people where.
Yes, that
Gotta put
is
the address
very,
on
very.
Facebook, like, you gotta put it out there.
If you build it, they will come. And then there's profile, incarnation cross. I will say the incarnation cross is very interesting. I know you and I delved into this the other day and we were like, whoa. So, mine, here's what it says: the incarnation cross of explanation. You are literally designed to explain, teach, and translate deep insight in a clear and practical way. That makes sense. Your expression of truth challenges outdated paradigms and sparks revolutions of thought. Also, very true. Very, very true. So it just makes sense why I show up the way that I do. The
Yeah.
incarnation cross is about how your energy field works. So even if I wasn't doing what I'm doing now, even if I never found my path and never found my way in my life, into doing what I'm doing now, which is literally doing this for people, my energy field emanates that. So people coming into my presence would naturally spark that within them,
Yeah.
which is very powerful. Makes sense because I remember working, I was a library assistant. After I graduated from high school, I got hired by my high school to be the library assistant, a paraprofessional with the school district. And it was a great job because it was really quiet and I got to do a lot of my work, my college homework. And I had my desk set up with my screens facing this way. And then there was a station of, it was a computer lab. Do you remember when
Yeah.
libraries used to be computer labs? I'm sure they still are. And there was one right next to me, and there was this chair, this station that students would sit in. And I kid you not, it became like the therapy chair. Whoever sat in there, they would literally turn around and talk to me. And I'm like trying to do work. And then I
Yep.
can't even tell you how did I talk to them? Did they talk to me? What happened? And they would tell me their deepest, darkest, all of these things. And I'm just like, why are they telling me these things? I'm not asking to know. And it was just part of who I'm meant to be, how I impacted them at an energetic level without even trying. Back in those days, I was like, who cares about mindset or energy or nutrition or any of the things that I are basically who I am now? And it didn't matter. My energy impacted people in that way.
Yep. That's
Tell us about yours because yours is really cool. I loved when we looked yours
Well,
up.
I was gonna say that it's really interesting too because I also had something that came up in mind about how I activate people and how
Mhm,
I alchemize people and I help them remember who they really were
mhm,
before the world told them that they had to be who they are today, right? Because we all develop that. So I help people unlearn who they need to be so that they can
mhm,
figure out who they actually are. And that's in my human design. Yet that's what all of these years of business has continued to bring me back to
mhm,
that over and over.
mhm,
And I am that person that has always, I guess I could use the word struggled, but I would just say has experienced patterns of being the friend who always triggers people. I When I first meet
mm,
people, they either love me or they hate me or they're completely indifferent just because they do love or hate me and they don't want me to know, right? Like I have always quote triggered people. And now I understand I'm actually just activating them. It's just my
mm,
energy. It's that I'm so amplified. I'm so clear as to who I am and the channel that I am that they see a direct reflection of either who they once were, that they are no longer, and they've fallen off these habits and they're actually just really upset with themselves. So they take it out on me, or they see their future self in me and they're like, oh, I could be like Jayna. And then they love and adore me because they're loving and adoring their future self. So either they're hating their
mm.
past self when they see me or they're loving their future self. And it has
Mm,
nothing to do with me. And the
mhm,
moment that I recognized that, I was like, "Oh, this makes it so much easier." Because 1, I accepted that it's gonna keep happening, and so I
mhm,
recognize that this is not a pattern that I it's nothing I need to change in myself, it's just going to keep happening, and
mhm,
2, I recognize it has nothing to do with me, so there's
mhm,
nothing for me to change. It is just something I have to experience, and so now I get to have supportive language of it, where when someone does get triggered, I can sit and have these conversations because I actually have friends now who are some of my closest friends who were very triggering and very because I don't just trigger others. I also am human and get triggered by
mhm.
people because they're activating me. And
Yeah.
so I've had people where we just butt heads when we first meet, but we are best friends now. And it's like 6
Mhm.
years later and we had lots of conversations where it's like, "You remember the first time we met?" And it's like, "Yeah." It's like, "I really didn't like you." It's like, "I didn't like you either." And it's like, but
Those are
now
the best.
we're best friends. And it's all because we were activating each other and we saw something in the other person that we hadn't healed. And the moment that I did my work and she did her work, then we're like, "Oh, it's not you. You're awesome, actually. I was just seeing myself." Okay. So it's like, I love that aspect of human design. It's really helpful there. I think
Mm.
there's some more fun stuff to it as well. So let's see if I screen share my screen. I We're going to do just the ChatGPT prompt. We're going to share. Cool. So I put this prompt in earlier. It says, "Hey, chat, can you take this information about my human design and give me a breakdown of each term and what it means for me? What do I need to know about myself to take my next personal evolution through, take myself, wait, know about myself to make my next personal evolution through the end of 2025 and 2026?" And then I put in this information that I had gotten from a human design thingamabob, because you can just go on the internet and get a little free test. You answer some questions. And so here's what we get. I knew it was going to bring this stuff up. This
Of
incarnation
course it
cross
will.
is what Michelle and I were geeking out about a couple weeks ago, which has been fun. So my incarnation cross is the sleeping phoenix. What does that mean? It means that it's basically like Michelle said, it's our life trajectory, is what the incarnation cross is. So mine is death and rebirth. Isn't that great? Because I help people let go of their old stories and their old identities and step into their new ones. So essentially, death and rebirth. It has been a theme throughout my life in a lot of ways, which is really fun. So it's definitely saying that you're not designed to maintain the old. You burn through identities, relationships, or systems that no longer fit and emerge new. People feel catalyzed by you because you embody transformation. So that's something that, like, I do a lot. Even just recently, we've been talking about how I've had shifts recently, very heavily because very, very heavily because I left a group of people that I loved dearly, but they were holding me into an old story. And
Mhm.
I was like, "Okay, I get it. Here's a lesson. To be able to get into the next story, to the next version of me, I have to walk into new rooms, which means I need to leave old rooms and I need to
Mhm.
allow myself to let go." And so I allowed myself to essentially let go of these old relationships. It burned through them. They didn't fit anymore. And it's not that they're bad people. Not at all. In fact, still love them, still good friends. They just weren't what I needed right now. So I transformed. And that is catalyzing people in all of the greatest ways, right? So, what is going to happen for the next 2025 and 2026 is that we're actually getting into this Phoenix window, which is fun. So, we're going to be I'm shedding more layers of who I am, both in business and identity, old strategies, old containers, even old aesthetics, which is interesting because I've been going through a lot of rebranding. And I
Mhm.
will probably continue to rebrand because, your
Mhm.
girl's open to it. The more you let yourself die and be reborn, the more magnetic your work becomes. So we've got some gates, some other fun things. So 4 gates, I guess: abundance and emotional spirit, intimacy, and sexual energy. Isn't that fun? Because my first retreat, we did do some intimacy and we talked about female orgasm and some of those other fun things. So that was fun.
Yes.
We power, sacral force, and then gate 20, now voice of presence. The core
Mhm.
themes that I have is that I thrive in cycles of death and rebirth. So I'm going to have a lot of identity shifts through my life, which makes sense why I had, I had well, it was a psychologist, which psychiatrist, which one's the one that prescribes medication?
Psychiatrist.
Psychiatrist. I had a psychiatrist one time tell me that I had multiple identities. So DID, dissociative identity disorder. And I believed it. and those belief systems are strong
Mhm.
when it comes from a doctor or something like that.
Mhm.
Actually, through doing the work that we do, where we help people create new neural pathways, I healed my own brain and no longer have any of the symptoms of it. But what I think it was is that I had multiple identities happening all at once, and that I hadn't had a
Mm.
closure with each identity. I was just
Completion.
creating new identities to be able to
Mhm.
escape the old ones. So when I finally went through the process of redefining, making that meaning, taking the lesson, letting fully processing that emotional energy, then I learned how to identity shift. And now I'm just getting really good at identity shifting faster and faster and faster. It's almost like being a snake, and just I'm getting
Mhm.
to like daily sheds at this point.
Did you know that this is the year of the snake? So that makes sense why we have been experiencing, because I know we've used that analogy of like, I feel like a snake.
I know
It's
we have
like
said that a lot.
we are so in tune and in touch that yes, we're right in it.
I love this. My moods are spiritual weather. Don't fight them, guide with them. And I think it's so interesting because
Mhm.
when I go through something, and I'm very kinesthetic, so I know my body and I can feel it real well. Um, Almost all my girlfriends that are highly connected around me are all experiencing something very
Mhm.
similar. So I
Mhm.
now see them as like the weather, and I'm like, cool. I kind of can forecast what my friends are feeling right now. My intimacy is catalytic. And so this is really interesting because I tend to, even my friendships become strong bonds really fast. And then
Mhm.
it can be hard because if those bonds don't pan out for whatever reason or another, ends up in deep heartbreak for people. So
Mhm.
I end up being a lot of people's lesson in life. So there's that. Your energy is powerful, but not endless, which is huge because
Yeah.
I do burn out. I can like
Mhm.
go and go and go and go for months, and then just hit and for like 6 or 8 weeks want to do absolutely nothing. And then I
Mhm.
get like a boost of energy again, and then I'm go go go. And so I find that like pacing myself more, I've spaced out my weeks a little bit more. So it seems like I'm finding a good groove to where I can avoid a little bit of that burnout falling in there.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then the last one here for the theme is your voice awakens others. And I speak from presence and not planning, which I think is
Mhm.
just really powerful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff here. I think the big ones too are like when you get your human design, ask about shadows, ask about the
Mhm.
opposite, right?
Mhm.
Um, I over merging in relationships. I give too much intimacy, too much access. I burn out from trying to keep up with all the sacral types. So I'm just like giving energy a lot.
Mhm.
Emotional lows equal loss of faith. Yes, very much. When I am having a bad day, it's because I feel like things aren't working out and there's not progress being made. That's very much tied to my emotional lows. And then the last one is forcing timelines instead.
Mm.
Oh
Mhm.
gosh, just instead of
Done that.
trusting. And that's
Been
where,
there, done that.
because I what?
No, I was saying been there, done that.
Oh, yes, I
What we're
swear.
saying.
And it's so interesting though, because it's all of that is not telling me. I had a conversation with a friend who was like, "Oh, I don't really care for like they blanketed it as astrology, right? I don't
Mhm.
really care for astrology. It tells you because I don't like anything that tells me who I am." And I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh, that's an interesting perspective.
Mhm.
This is not telling you who I don't see it as it telling me who I am.
Mm-mm.
I see it as saying, here are some of your patterns or things that you could be experiencing. And sometimes I'll read something and be like, no, I don't agree. And other times I'm like, yeah. And it just helps
Mhm.
me understand a little bit more.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I highly recommend looking at your own human design, getting consent and seeing what your partner's human design is. That
Mhm.
was really fun. I also like freaked out and sent a voice note to Michelle the day that I got consent to look at my partner's human design, and I read
Oh,
it out
good.
loud to him. And he is very much a like needs a million and one convincers for anything. And he
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, if it's generic and it just like, whatever, then I'm not going to believe any of it." And I read it out, and the whole way through, he's like, "Yeah, Yeah, that's so
That's
true.
so
Yeah,
great.
wow, this is
So
it is
great.
he's like, "But this is just it's telling me it's ChatGPT, so it's telling me all the frou-frou great stuff about me. It's just stroking my ego. Like, ask it what's bad about me. Ask it what I need to." And I was like, "What are his red flags?" It was the most fun conversation. So highly recommend looking up human design with your partner, have ChatGPT
Yeah.
conversations. And you're right, Michelle. It also can go more than just like relationships and who you are and how you show up.
Mhm.
Ask it about your business because
Yes.
I also took my human design and had a separate conversation with chat about it and said, based on my human design, who should I be working with? Like, who's my ideal
Mhm.
client? Based on my human design, who should I not
Mhm.
be working with? Who should and
Mhm.
what red flags should I be looking for in my leads to let me know that they're not a good fit based on my energetic human design? And it was giving me fantastic results. And so I actually built a lot of my offers on conversations with it about my human design because I only want to attract people. So my avatar profiles are built on energetic human design. Like, so I'm looking for projectors. And so a lot of
Absolutely.
my content says, you are invited. Welcome.
Mm.
I give you permission. You belong.
I recognize
and
you.
and it's like, "Oh, you're amazing. We'd love to have you as a part of our group.
Yeah.
Welcome." And it's like, "Would you
Yeah.
like?" And it's like everything's about giving them,
Mhm.
and so it's when you can learn this stuff about yourself and your business and your clients, it just gives you much more insight as to how to communicate with people, what they might be struggling with right now,
Mhm.
and it helps you
I
feel a
love
little
that.
bit less broken. I know you said that earlier.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that initially when I did my human design, this was years ago. It was before anybody was talking about it. I heard two people talking, kind of like what we're doing. They're on a podcast and like, human design, I'm a projector. It was in the UK, so that's why the Harry Potter accent. And I was like, what is human design? They know about this. I need to know about this. So I instantly went in and I felt this relief, and then instantly it was like, what do you mean I have to wait for an invitation? I rejected it
Mm.
because I didn't like that I had to wait on other people and that I couldn't do it because I was so conditioned to what everyone else is doing. And getting back into it from a completely different mind space, I'm pretty sure that was before I had done any of the work that we've learned as well.
Mhm.
So, coming in with a new identity, a new personality, new perspective, and finally being able to say, actually, this is a great thing. This is a superpower. This is telling me that I can chill out and get
Yeah.
more done. How does it get any better than that?
Yeah.
And uh, I've embraced it, and it's been more of my personal journey to learn how to use it for myself, and I use it with clients as well. And they also, the people who are into this, they love it. They're just like, oh my gosh, I have learned how to tap into my gut. I've learned how to make better decisions. I can see the patterns of how I you whenever I do the things this way, things work out, and whenever I don't, things don't work out. It just gives you so much more to work with and to understand the patterns in your life.
Yep.
And I love, love, love. You mentioned doing it with your partner. Moms,
Oh,
dads, do it with your kids.
yeah.
So good. So good doing it with your kids. Even if all you do is focus on one thing that you learn, because you do get so much information. Even if
Sorry, that was lightning. So keep going.
that means listen and pay attention, because this is fire. This is lightning right now. Even if all you do is take one thing that you learn from the human design and employ that, integrate that into your life. One of the things that showed up for my son Leo, he's a manifesting generator. And these guys, they like to start a ton of things at once
Mm.
and they don't work linearly. So for them, they don't just do one project from start to finish. They'll jump from one project to another, to another, to another, to another. Well, if I didn't know that about him, how might I, as a mother, begin to try to force him, like, well, you have to finish what you started and you have to do this and you have to do it that way. And oh no, what if he has ADD because he can't finish anything? And it has nothing to do with any of that. And it literally has to do with him being himself and embracing who he is.
Yeah.
And just that one little thing, there's so much more to dive into. And just that one thing can help me be a better mom to him and allow him, and to remind dad, hey dad, remember he's, these are the qualities about him. Let's allow him to be him instead of trying to get him to be more like you or me, because we're all different designs. I know a lot of people who have a lot of similar designs in their life. That's not my family.
Yeah.
We are all different. And it's beautiful because I'm getting to learn how to coexist with that. And there's different ways that you can learn how to bring this into family relationship dynamics and even team dynamics when you get into business. And speaking of business, I'd love to share what my chat GPT brought up about business. If I can figure out how to
Yeah.
share this here. Uh, do I do screen or presentation? Screen, right? Yes, screen. I
Yeah.
believe it would be
Correct.
screen. Okay. So here doing the screen, you can see, I just want to show, like, I literally just put in this. I didn't even prompt it, and it knew I wanted information about business. And it says daily workflow, prioritize short focused bursts of energy over long haul hustle,
Mhm.
build in lots of rest, reflection, and creative spacious, work in 3 to 4 hour windows max with deep nourishment and movement in between. This is not the traditional 9 to 5 that we're sold.
Yeah.
And it makes so much sense why I would always burn out in every role that I would ever have. I would crush it. I would absolutely crush it in every role. And I would go home exhausted, depleted, depressed, and not understanding what is wrong with me. Why can't I keep up with everyone else? Why am I not normal? And it's
Mhm.
because I wasn't meant to operate in that way. And I remember having a conversation with my best friends in real estate, and I was working with her on her team. And when I started to find out all of this about myself, I obviously gushed to her. I'm like, you have to do this human design. And here's what I found out about me. And like, this is why the role I'm in right now, this is why I'm so tired all the time. And she looked at me, she's like, but you're so good at it. You're so good at you're so phenomenal at everything that you do here for me and for the team. And I had to look at her and say, I get that. And I'm so tired. Like, I
Mhm.
go home, and I hadn't told her this. I used to have to go home and take a nap just so that I could be awake to have dinner with Leo and Cliff. I would go straight home and go to sleep so that I could have my family time.
Yeah.
And then I'd still go to sleep later. And that's the difference. I think so many of us are sold into this idea that it has to, that it's normal. We've normalized stress and burnout, and we think it has to be that way, and it doesn't have to be that way. When I
Yeah.
finally had the courage to tell her, this is who I really am. Yes, I get that I'm really great at performing, but it literally is taking everything for me to do this. And I'm going to do it great and well because that's who I am. I believe in excellence. And so doing this can really help you understand a little bit more about
Well, look
how
down
you
where it
operate.
says business building tips at the second dot there. And it says create content. Number 3, create content that speaks to what you're seeing in others. Your wisdom is magnetic when it's anchored in observation. That right
Mhm,
there tells
mhm,
you exactly what type of social media content is going to be easy and effortless for
mhm,
you. You're going to see
mhm.
something and have a thought, and you can whip your phone out and for 90 seconds just talk to it, say something, be done, post it, and people are going to go, well, how do you come up with those ideas? And you're going to go, I don't know. What it is this. It's your human design. You're
Yes,
observing and then teaching. You're literally just
yes.
following your human design. So,
And even before I had Chat GPT to do this, is exactly what would happen when I had my podcast with my co-host, the Breakthrough Lab podcast. And I would literally just take, here's what a client's going through, or here's what a family's going through, or I was in this situation, I observed this as a theme, and I would talk about it. And I remember having somebody who was an avid listener. He's like, I love how you're taking us through this journey. I love how intentional you are. And the entire podcast, every episode, it's a story, it's an arc.
mm,
And I'm just like, Okay, that's great. I love that you think of it that way. And I told him the truth. I was like, what I'm doing, I'm literally just observing the things that happen in life. And then I am teaching to that,
Yeah.
because that, and it was easy and effortless, and it landed because that's, to your point, Jayna, that is exactly how I meant to create.
Yeah. And mine's
And that's the
slightly different.
easiest way.
Like, even though I'm still a projector, mine's slightly different because if you were to look into mine, it's going to tell
Mhm.
me, and it's not about observing others. Mine is about me telling stories of things I've done and I've learned about myself. So it will
Mhm.
say that I am here to share my own learnings and my own
Mhm.
stories. Mine does not talk about observing others. It's very interesting how it's different for each and every person, because slight little things will change things. So yeah, it's like if you read into mine in depth, it's very much like live your life, learn, document, and share and like tell people about it so they can get wisdom from your experiences.
You're a line one, right?
Yeah.
You're a line one.
One
The
three.
research that's why 1-3, and I'm a 3-6.
Yeah.
That's so fun. And to your point, I love sharing this little bullet point here where it says health and nervous system. You're sensitive to external pressure because you have an open root and undefined sacral. Avoid environments or routines that feel forceful or fast paced. Emotional boundaries are key. Undefined solar plexus. Feel it all, but don't own it all.
Mhm.
This is key. And these here, open root, undefined sacral, undefined solar plexus. This is when you get into the nuts and bolts
Yes.
of human design, which even what I just shared is super, super, super high level
Yeah.
overview of human design, because those, once I started delving into all of the centers and all of the gates, you really can get an even more complete picture.
Mhm.
Because, yes, to your point, at the high level, it's saying, hey, observe things and teach about it. And when I chunk down, when I go more into detail into all the different centers and like my throat center, and does it have a motor, and is it defined or undefined? I also have that theme of tell your
Mhm.
stories. And when you tell your stories, this will also help you to be more resonant. So you don't have to get that detailed though, for
Yeah.
two reasons. Number one, you're probably already going to be doing it anyway. How many times have Jayna and I already said, oh, we were already doing this, and
Mhm.
then we just got confirmation of
Yep.
it because it feels right and it feels easy? And secondly, even if you don't get into the granular, just applying the one thing at a time so that you get it, and then you can build and build and build. I didn't start out by understanding the complexities of all the different gates and where they are in,
Yes.
what planet or where they're showing up, or is it the unconscious or is it the conscious? What arrow, what direction are the arrows pointing, and what the different, there is, I mean, literally, you get your human design and it is a picture and it looks like a freaking schematic for a car
Yeah.
or something, like the systems in a car, because that's what it's about. It's a blueprint about your energy, and you can get so granular. I wouldn't recommend starting there. I would recommend just mastering the high level overview of how you need to show up. Not need to show up. I use the word need personally because for the goals that I have and what I want, that is the way that I want to be showing up in order to be able to do what I want to do. And when I have not shown up in those ways, when I have tried to fight it, then I burn out.
Yeah.
Or it's hard or it just doesn't work out. So
That's like,
for me, it's more of a necessity of like, well, if I want this, I'm going to listen to this. I'm going to listen to that advice about the pothole that's right around the corner.
yeah, it's like when I thought that I was on my path. I
Mm,
I thought I was meant for a specific stage. It took 2 years to prep myself for that stage. I got on that stage, and then I was like, "Oh wait, this isn't right.
mhm,
This doesn't feel right." And what I recognized was we dove into human design shortly after that, and I was like, "Oh, I'm a projector. I never got an invitation. I
mm,
got recognition, but I didn't get an invitation." Had I sat back and allowed
mhm,
that invitation to come, I may have been treated differently. I may have had a different experience because I would have had a different association in people's brains. But because of the fact that I didn't wait to be invited, I pushed. I was
Mhm.
like, no, I can do this. I'm here. I'm now. Now. Don't you need this? I'm here. Hey, hey, look at me. Look at me. Look at me. And it was just very desperate. And it was like, okay. And so they didn't fully see the magic. They didn't fully see what they had in front of them because they thought, oh, that's fine. She's not going to go anywhere. This is just, we'll
Mhm.
just, and it ended up being what it was, which is not in alignment. And so I got
Mhm.
an opportunity to step back from that. And now I'm in this space where I have people left and right reaching out saying, hey, can you come and run your workshop on that topic here at our event?
Mhm.
Hey, can you come keynote for my event? Hey, can you come and be a speaker for this? Like, it's amazing what has happened
Mhm.
when I finally pulled back and just allowed myself to live my human design and stop
Mhm.
telling myself, well, if you want to be a public speaker, you need to be applying and you need to do this. I had someone from May, June, July, August. It was even earlier than that. Basically all year long from
Mhm.
January until just recently for like 6 months was every single week applying for me for stages. Like constantly applying for me for leadership
Mhm.
summits, for online things, for virtual, in person, you name it, whether it was a business or a small group or a creative, whatever. She kept applying and kept applying, and we
Mhm.
got nothing.
Mhm.
And it was this very heavy chasing energy. This very lack
Mhm.
of clarity, feels like it's unstable, like we didn't know, and it's just very that everybody's confused and overwhelmed and burned out, and what do we do? And we're scrambling, and it's that. And
Mhm.
then instead, now I was like, hey, girl, I love what you're doing. I really appreciate your energy, but I need time to step back from everything. So
Mhm.
I'm going to go ahead and let you save your time. Let's stop doing this for right now. I'm just going to take a step back. And if opportunities keep rolling in, great. If you have someone who reaches out, great. If you have something that comes up and you just want to shoot it my way, I'll put in the application. Just show
Mhm.
it my way. I have not needed to apply
Mhm.
because the moment we stopped applying, they
Mhm.
started coming and asking me, hey, will you come be a part of this? And I'm
The
like,
invitations
it's so much
rolling
easier
in.
this way. What the fuck?
It
I was wasting
is.
so much time. So it's
It
like,
is.
oh, more of my energy and time is better used in just making intentional content that feels
Mhm.
good to me, that is
Mhm.
transcribing and transpiring my experiences, my lessons, the things I have through and my clients and what they're experiencing, and just put out more content like that, I will
Mhm.
eventually attract to the right people. And so it's really
Mhm.
just allowing yourself to live your human design, because some people are built
Mhm.
completely different, and they are built to be salespeople who go out and make a million and one calls and work their same 9 to 5 or even 12 or 14 or 15, 16-hour shifts doing
Mhm.
these jobs that are very repetitive. I would go insane. Literally
Mhm.
would go insane if I did not have the variety that I have as a content creator and a speaker.
Mhm.
It was like, if the idea of saying the same thing on stage every time I hit the stage is not happy for me. I'm like,
Mhm.
no, I could never. But the idea of being able to do podcasts where I can have a different conversation every single time I turn on the mic, that's exciting. That's
Yeah.
me living my dharma. That's me living my energetic truth. And I love that you and I are finally in this space. I don't know if it's like this mid 30s thing, because it's like a lot of people like you finally get to the part where you start to reserve the amount of F's you give, right? Like, you start to say, I'm not going to give so many of those out anymore. Um, and you start to really
Yeah.
just step into yourself. I feel like we've gone through
Mhm.
enough time and years and stuff to try on the coat, try on different types of versions of
Mhm.
us. And it's like, those didn't feel good. I felt restricted. I felt like that it was a size too small, or it was too big, or it
Mhm.
was whatever. It's like right now in my life, this is the coat that fits. And I'll tell you, girlfriend, mine's completely rhinestone, just like Taylor Swift outfit. So
I love that. Well, I think you hit on a very key point, that the reason that you and I are getting to experience this is because we're paying attention.
yeah.
You paid attention to the fact that the coat didn't feel good when you
Mhm.
wore it. And I can recognize literally how I used to do that in my life because after I had a baby, whenever I got pregnant, I had this weird, crazy rash thing all over my body in the very last trimester. I couldn't sleep at night because it would itch. I don't know how my skin didn't peel off because of how hard I would scratch. It was wild. And after that, my skin was never the same. I became very sensitive to how things felt, and I have a new appreciation for people like that because I used to be like, oh my gosh, you're just being extra. Now I'm like, I get it. I get it. Like my skin is more sensitive now. I had to give up so many clothes that I loved the way they looked or how, they made me feel when I wore them because I couldn't stand how uncomfortable. And it really presented this opportunity for me to think like, how on earth did I ever wear this? How did I ignore how scratchy and uncomfortable this is without a lining or without this or without that? And where else in my life have I been ignoring things that make me uncomfortable because I didn't pay attention? I didn't pay attention.
Isn't
And
it
we're paying attention.
interesting that we started this entire conversation an hour ago talking about a change in wardrobe from wearing black and pants to wearing dress and being girly, and now we're talking about a change in wardrobe again? I think that that's a great
Poetic.
way to wrap this up full circle,
Yep.
because this is an off the record real talk for regulated leaders. We have no intention for this other than to just have great conversation that hopefully
Mhm.
sparks something for the listener. So thank you guys for listening to another episode, and Michelle and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.